Everyone always says that the Joker ruined me, that he turned me into a monster. The truth is, I didn't meet him in Arkham, like everyone thinks. We met long before then, when he was just Jack Napier. Today on the Comic Book Report, Batman White Knight presents Harley Quinn. Stick around and check it out. Greetings from Gotham, everyone. My name is Dominic, and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I'm back in the world of Sean Murphy's Batman White Knight universe with the first spin-off entry. This is Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn. I had been hoping to read this after enjoying both Batman White Knight and Curse of the White Knight, and honestly, this one really did not disappoint. I picked up this paperback copy at a used bookstore, and I fell in love with it. I cannot wait to dive in, but before we do, I want to shout out the channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I'd highly encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link for it in this video's description. If you see something on their website you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, The Comic Book Report, and save $2 off of your order. Please note if you do use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's comic book review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Katana Collins and illustrated by Matteo Scalera, with story by Sean Murphy and Katana Collins. The comics in this volume were published by DC Comics as part of their Black Label beginning in 2020. The volume itself collects Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn issues 1 through 6 and Harley Quinn Black, White, and Red issue 6. This is a standard-sized trade paperback collection with glossy print paper stock, a glued binding, and a total of 168 pages. At this time, I'd like to give a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and with that out of the way, we can go ahead and get our first look at that Harley Quinn edition. I do have the standard size trade paperback edition. My collection of these White Knight titles are so all over the place. I have just a standard trade paperback for the original Batman White Knight. For Curse of the White Knight, I have a standard size hardcover, and now I'm back to paperback with this first spin-off. As I show you the exteriors here, I think I'll go into that a little bit. So Batman White Knight kicks off this universe created by Sean Murphy, wherein the Joker is kind of cured of his insanity, and Batman is kind of vilified in Gotham. That's a really rudimentary and simple way of putting Batman White Knight. There's a lot of nuance to it, and it's the beginning of an entire universe that Sean Murphy and team are building, and it is wonderful. I would say that this is volume 2.5 or 3, depending on how you look at it in this series. For that reason, I would not recommend reading this as your first White Knight book. I really would recommend reading this after Curse of the White Knight, which is the second volume, just because it picks up with Harley Quinn's story after that point, so there's already a lot that's happened to this character prior to this book. The cover is of course gorgeous, you get an idea of the artwork here, but other than that, it's a pretty standard paperback from DC. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a glued binding, which I'll show you now. There's a little bit of gutter loss here, but nothing too critical. I felt like it was pretty well bound, and honestly, no complaints from me. All pretty standard fare, like I said, for a trade paperback here from DC. I do like the kind of slightly glossed pages. That was a nice touch. Okay, now that we've given a brief context, the build of the book, the exteriors, we can go ahead and jump into the collection proper. So this is Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn. Essentially, it is a 6-issue little mini-series, and then we have the extra Harley Quinn, the Black, White, and Red, I think it's called. We have like a little digital issue they included at the back of this as well. That's presumably the White Knight's universe Harley Quinn. Really fun little short story just right at the end. It's almost like a bonus feature, but really happy they included that. As we make our way in, I will say for fans of the White Knight universe, if you've wondered after reading Curse of the White Knight, hey, should I jump straight into Beyond the White Knight or whatever it was called? the next volume, or should I stop and read the spinoff here with Harley Quinn? I will say I have not read Beyond yet, but I did go ahead and veer off into the spinoff, and I'm so happy I did. This really did fill out the world of White Knight for me, and it does take place after the events of Curse of White Knight. In fact, there are several plot bits that really pick up after the fact. Without going into too many spoilers for Batman Curse of the White Knight, Batman is sort of off the field in Gotham City. Harley Quinn is, if not a hero, she's definitely closer to that side, and she's in a really interesting place in life, and that's where this book finds her. She gets kind of drawn in by GCPD as sort of an outside consultant, and along the way she really has to contend with who she was, who she is, who she's going to be, the kind of different aspects of her personality, how they all kind of work together, so to speak. Because of that, we have a lot of great flashback sequences. We have a lot about her relationship with the Joker, or Jack Napier in this universe. We get some exploration of her current dynamic with Batman and just some of her other goings-on. She is a mother in this story to, I believe, twins. That's definitely a plot point as well. But yeah, she essentially gets drawn in on a kind of serial murder investigation. We have kind of a new player in Gotham City that appears to be a new kind of vigilante or villain of sorts, and with Batman out of commission, she kind of steps up to the plate along with some of Gotham's finest to sort of take down this villain. One of the other nuances of this that I like is that they call her Starlet or something like that. Essentially, there's this idea that she's taking out old kind of movie actors from Gotham's kind of golden age. So that's really, really fun. There is kind of a villainess and also someone else kind of pulling the strings, which I also enjoyed that layering of it. There's a couple supporting characters that they create for this narrative as well that are interesting and fun, but really all the spotlight is really on Harley Quinn, Harleen Quinzel, and I really liked that. Honestly, one of my favorite things about the White Knight universe is how they treated the character of Harley Quinn. They gave her so much agency and kind of how else do I say it? Her character feels really well-rounded and true. She's not a caricature. She's not over the top. There's enough recognizability that she does feel like Harley Quinn, but she feels also like a real person with real goals and dreams, and her relationship with the Joker even is a lot more believable, I think, for me, and I love that. And we even get to see some of that explored here. But one of the reasons I was excited about this spinoff is because I like how it was already portrayed in White Knight and Curse of the White Knight, and this is really an extension of it in a way that really works. I actually think that this is one of my favorite depictions or kind of incarnations of Harley Quinn. My other in comic book format is definitely Harleen by Stepan Sajek. That's just a triumph. But I would put this up there with that. I really like how Harley Quinn is treated throughout this whole universe, and especially here. Now, I spoke on it very briefly earlier, but this is released as part of the Black Label imprint at DC Comics, which is geared towards more adult readership. But with that in mind, there's not really a ton of graphic or mature content throughout this volume, but it is part of that Black Label. You know, it is kind of in its own separate continuity. It's not part of the mainstream DC universe. And because of that, the sandbox is really different than what we read in just standard ongoing DC titles, and I think that that's really fun. Also notable is that this was written by Katana Collins as opposed to Sean Murphy, who has penned the other main White Knight titles. He still gets a story by partial credit with Katana Collins, so I'm sure there's a level of orchestration or influence or input. I'm just not really clear to what degree. But Katana Collins here does a fantastic job. I absolutely adored the writing in this book. Honestly, if you had told me it was Sean Murphy, I probably would have believed it. There's that much continuity between this and the other White Knight titles I had read, at least in my opinion. But there's also a fresh other layer, and like I said, following Harley Quinn, we just get more into her head, her backstory, and what motivates her, and everything just feels consistent, organic, and true, and I just loved that. The art as well definitely has a degree of fidelity to this White Knight universe, even if it is a bit different than what we've seen in the other entries. But I really like that. I like that this feels like it's still within this universe, but it does feel like a little bit of a spin-off. It feels like it's doing a little bit of its own thing, has its own vibe and tone, but I did enjoy that. And I know I mentioned earlier that you don't really want to read this as your first White Knight book because so much is established in the previous volumes for our main character here. But with that in mind, if you have done your homework and read those books, this does feel like a self-contained story beyond that. We have a great beginning, middle, and conclusion within this book, and honestly, this was just one of my more favorite Bat-adjacent books I've had the pleasure of reading in some time. I do think that Harley was given just a really, really good showing here, and I was just really impressed absolutely throughout it. This was such a joy to read, and I'm so happy I finally picked up a copy. Across 6 issues, there were maybe a few moments that seemed like they dragged just a tad, but other than that, I do think that there was excellent pacing throughout this. I don't feel like it overstayed its welcome, and the world felt very full. Very good writing, like I said, throughout. I was really not disappointed here. There was maybe a character or two I didn't really engage with, but beyond that, I think all the other characters were so strong that I had no problem just really, really loving this. I also just think the panel layout was exciting. There is a sense of kind of kinetic motion that we get in a lot of this book, especially the action sequences. I think the artist should absolutely be commended. Really, really good stuff here. I also, in particular, liked those flashback scenes I mentioned earlier. We have a little bit of the meet cute between Harley Quinn and Jack Napier, the man who would be Joker. We get to see how Joker's kind of personality begins to exert itself and kind of come to the forefront of that person. And we get to see the kind of tragic love that Harley has for Jack Napier or Joker. It's not that she loves Joker, she loves Jack, and she's doing whatever she can to bring Jack to the surface. And ultimately, she joins him in the madness and becomes Joker's basically sidekick. And we get a lot more insight into that in a way that, like I said, it just really works for me, and it really serves the vision we got set up in some of the other entries, but it just goes a little bit deeper. We get to go behind the scenes, we get to dig in a bit more, and it's just very rewarding. It's also fascinating to me to see Harley Quinn as a mother. There's this level of, I don't want to say flippancy, but it's almost like a role that she doesn't quite get. She does embrace it, and there is a kind of beauty to how she approaches it, but overall, you can almost feel like it's kind of not back burner, but it's not like the prime motivations for a lot of her actions in this book, and I thought that that was a fascinating way to present that and present her as a mother character. But yeah, there's a lot of great action sequences here. Like I said, it's all kind of based around whodunit, finding the villain. But yeah, really good payoff here. No serious complaints from me. I think the story was all well constructed, and I was really happy with the conclusion. I do want to note, if you're in this for Batman specifically, you might be a little bit let down, as he's very, very pushed to the sidelines in this book. There's maybe 2 or 3 scenes with him throughout this book. Granted, they are very good scenes, and we do have Harley mention or comment on Batman and her relationship with him a little bit more throughout it. But again, he's not the focus, and after the events of Curse the White Knight, there's a reason he's more or less off the board. But again, I like how he's used effectively where he is, but for the most part, this is Harley's show. We do also have lingering glimpses of the Joker in those flashback sequences, but for the most part, we're also present in the current action, current storytelling, and this is really Harley's book. It's the White Knight presenting a Harley Quinn story, and honestly, that's really aptly titled in my mind. Really a strong book here. If you're a fan of the Bat family, if you're a fan of just Batman or the Bat mythos, Tales of Gotham, particularly within this White Knight universe, it's absolutely a must-read. At the end of the book, you do have a cover gallery, and then you have that Harley Quinn black, white, and red issue I mentioned earlier. This is really fun. It's like a short story done in the colors of black, white, and red, and it's kind of a time where Batman and Robin are hunting down Harley Quinn and the Joker, and we get some really fun character insights that really inform the White Knight's vision of Batman and Harley and their dynamic. Again, this was really well done. It was short and it was sweet, and it almost reads like a bonus feature, but again, I'm so happy they included it. It was a great cherry on top of an already great collection. Wrapping up this paperback, it really made me want to double down on this whole universe and finally catch up on the remaining White Knight books that are in print that I have yet to read. If you read Beyond the White Knight or that Generation Joker, I believe it's called, the next spin-off, let me know in the comments if they're worth reading. I'm definitely eager to try to get copies because I really, really like what Sean Murphy and team are doing in this fascinating sandbox. And that is Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn, and now all that's left to do is to give this incredible collection a grade. For successfully spinning out of an already great franchise, While managing to elevate one of the main supporting characters in this universe, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Batman White Knight Presents Harley Quinn an A-. If you're a fan of Batman White Knight or Harley Quinn, I would consider this book a must-read. The writing, the art, everything was absolutely phenomenal. While we had some new creatives at the helm, this absolutely does serve the vision of Sean Murphy's White Knight universe, and I was gripped from page 1 all the way to the end. I really did love this book. I love this franchise. If you've read Batman White Knight or any of the other sequels, let me know what you think of them in the comments below. And thank you for watching. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to give this video a like, that comment we talked about, and maybe check out another video on your way out. Thanks so much and have a good one.